Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today, we are discussing a developing story that has started creating conversations across Iraq's currency markets and among global followers of the Iraqi dinar. Reports circulating at the beginning of the week suggest that Iraq may soon announce a new update related to the dollar exchange rate system. While the details remain unclear, the fact that officials and financial observers are already discussing an upcoming update has naturally attracted significant attention from traders, investors, business owners, and citizens who closely monitor Iraq's economic direction. What makes this situation interesting is not only the possibility of a change itself, but also the uncertainty surrounding what exactly the update could involve. At this stage, there has been no fully detailed public explanation outlining whether the update concerns the official exchange rate, currency market controls, banking regulations, electronic payment reforms, dollar auction mechanisms, or new restrictions connected to foreign currency transactions. Because the information remains limited, the market reaction is currently driven more by speculation and anticipation than by confirmed policy changes. Whenever Iraq signals any adjustment related to the US dollar exchange rate, it immediately becomes a major topic because of the central role the dollar plays in the Iraqi economy. Iraq operates within a heavily dollarized financial environment. Many imports are purchased in dollars, many business contracts are linked to the dollar, and citizens often monitor the dollar price daily because fluctuations directly impact purchasing power, inflation, and consumer confidence. Even small policy adjustments can influence market sentiment across the country. For Iraqi dinar followers, one of the most important things to understand is that exchange rate updates do not automatically mean a major currency revaluation or dramatic overnight increase in the dinar's international value. In many cases, updates involve administrative reforms, tighter banking controls, efforts to reduce black market activity, or adjustments designed to stabilize the domestic currency market. Responsible analysis requires separating realistic economic reforms from exaggerated online speculation. Over the past several years, Iraqi authorities have repeatedly attempted to stabilize the exchange rate system while balancing multiple economic pressures. Iraq depends heavily on oil revenues, which are earned largely in US dollars. Those dollars enter the Iraqi financial system and are then distributed through government spending, imports, banking channels, and the currency auction process managed by the Central Bank of Iraq. Because the economy remains deeply connected to global oil markets, any pressure on dollar availability or market confidence can quickly affect exchange rates inside Iraq. One of the major challenges Iraq has faced recently has been the gap between the official exchange rate and the parallel market rate. The official rate is set by authorities and used in many formal financial transactions, while the parallel market reflects the actual buying and selling activity taking place outside official banking channels. When the gap between these rates widens, it creates uncertainty for businesses and consumers. Importers face higher costs, traders seek alternative currency sources, and ordinary citizens become concerned about inflation and the rising prices of goods. This is why any mention of a new exchange rate update immediately becomes important. The government and the Central Bank of Iraq have spent considerable time trying to narrow the difference between official and street market dollar prices. Several reforms have already been introduced over the last 2 years, including tighter oversight of international transfers, stronger compliance requirements for banks, and efforts to modernize Iraq's financial infrastructure. Authorities have also attempted to reduce illicit currency flows and strengthen transparency in dollar transactions. If the upcoming update involves additional measures to control the parallel market, it could indicate that Iraqi policymakers remain focused on stabilizing the dinar domestically, rather than pursuing any dramatic currency restructuring. Stability is one of the most critical goals for any developing economy. Before a currency can strengthen over the long term, policymakers typically aim to build trust in banking systems, maintain inflation control, improve foreign reserves, and encourage economic diversification. Another possibility is that the update could involve changes to how dollars are distributed through Iraqi banks. Iraq has already experienced periods where tighter compliance measures temporarily reduced access to dollars for some traders and businesses. These restrictions were partly connected to international financial standards and efforts to monitor cross-border transactions more carefully. While such measures can strengthen financial transparency over time, they can also create short-term pressure in local currency markets if businesses struggle to obtain dollars efficiently. If authorities announce easier access to official dollar channels, that could help reduce black market demand and support exchange rate stability. On the other hand, if new restrictions are introduced, the market could initially react with volatility until businesses adapt to the changes. This is why investors and Iraqi dinar followers are paying close attention, even though the details remain unclear. It is also important to remember the broader regional and international context. Iraq's economy does not operate in isolation. Global oil prices, geopolitical developments, regional trade relationships, and U.S. financial oversight all influence Iraq's monetary policies. Because Iraq's banking system relies heavily on international dollar transactions, coordination with global financial standards remains essential. In recent years, Iraq has worked to improve compliance systems and reduce financial vulnerabilities in order to strengthen international confidence in its banking sector. For everyday Iraqi citizens, the exchange rate discussion is less about speculation and more about daily living costs. When the dollar price rises in local markets, imported goods become more expensive. Iraq imports a significant portion of consumer products, including food, electronics, construction materials, and household items. A weaker dinar or unstable exchange rate can therefore contribute to inflation pressures that directly affect families and businesses. This is one reason why exchange rate stability has become such a politically sensitive issue within Iraq. The Iraqi government understands that public confidence in the economy is closely tied to currency stability. Officials know that sudden price increases can create frustration among citizens, especially during periods of economic adjustment. As a result, policymakers often try to present exchange rate reforms as part of a broader strategy aimed at protecting purchasing power, modernizing the economy, and encouraging long-term financial stability. From an analytical perspective, one of the key questions surrounding this upcoming update is whether Iraq is preparing another gradual reform step or signaling a larger structural adjustment. Historically, Iraq has tended to move cautiously with monetary policy changes. Rapid or unpredictable changes could create financial instability, especially in an economy still rebuilding infrastructure, strengthening institutions, and diversifying beyond oil dependence. Many dinar followers online often interpret any exchange rate news as a signal of an immediate massive revaluation. However, professional economic analysis requires a more balanced approach. Currency strength is usually connected to long-term fundamentals such as productivity growth, export diversification, political stability, foreign investment, and institutional confidence. While Iraq has made progress in certain areas, the country still faces significant structural challenges that policymakers continue working to address. At the same time, there are positive developments worth recognizing. Iraq continues to generate substantial oil revenue during periods of strong energy prices. The country also holds considerable natural resources and maintains strategic regional importance. Infrastructure projects, energy cooperation agreements, transportation initiatives, and digital banking reforms have all contributed to discussions about Iraq's long-term economic potential. International investors continue monitoring Iraq because of its large energy sector and reconstruction opportunities. If Iraq successfully modernizes its banking system and strengthens financial transparency, that could improve investor confidence over time. Stronger banking infrastructure can help reduce dependence on cash transactions, increase foreign investment participation, and support more efficient economic activity. Several reforms already introduced by Iraqi authorities suggest that modernization remains a major objective. Another factor that observers are watching closely is Iraq's push toward digital payment systems. The government has encouraged electronic payments and banking modernization in an effort to reduce reliance on physical cash and improve transaction monitoring. Expanding digital financial systems can support currency stability by increasing transparency and reducing unofficial market activity. If the upcoming exchange rate update is connected to broader banking digitization efforts, it could represent another step in Iraq's long-term economic reform agenda. For businesses operating inside Iraq, clarity is extremely important. Uncertainty regarding exchange rate policies can make it difficult for importers and companies to plan future transactions. Even rumors of policy changes can influence purchasing behavior, pricing decisions, and market confidence. That is why financial markets tend to react quickly whenever government officials hint at upcoming exchange rate announcements. Internationally, analysts will likely examine whether the update aligns with Iraq's ongoing cooperation with global financial institutions. International organizations have frequently encouraged Iraq to improve banking compliance, diversify the economy, strengthen non-oil revenue sources, and reduce inefficiencies within state institutions. Exchange rate management forms part of this larger economic reform conversation. Another issue connected to the dollar exchange rate discussion is foreign reserves. Iraq's foreign currency reserves remain an important source of financial stability. Strong reserves allow central banks to defend currency systems during periods of market pressure. Iraq's oil exports have historically helped support reserve levels, although fluctuations in global energy markets can still create challenges. Maintaining adequate reserves is essential for supporting confidence in the dinar and ensuring the country can manage external financial obligations. For Iraqi dinar followers outside Iraq, it is important to approach developing stories carefully and avoid drawing conclusions before official announcements are released. Currency rumors often spread quickly online, especially in communities focused on speculative investment narratives. However, responsible financial analysis requires verified information and realistic interpretation of economic developments. Markets can react emotionally in the short term, but long-term outcomes depend on actual policy implementation and economic performance. One interesting aspect of this story is the language being used around the upcoming update. The phrase, "new update on dollar exchange rates," is broad enough to cover many possible scenarios. It could refer to technical banking procedures, revised exchange mechanisms, anti-smuggling enforcement measures, adjustments to import financing systems, or public communication strategies designed to calm market volatility. Until officials provide specifics, analysts must remain cautious about making definitive claims. Short-term market reactions may depend largely on expectations rather than confirmed outcomes. If traders believe the update will improve dollar availability and reduce black market pressure, confidence in the dinar could strengthen temporarily. If uncertainty increases or market participants fear tighter restrictions, volatility could rise until additional details emerge. This type of cautious market behavior is common during periods of policy transition. Long-term implications are more closely tied to Iraq's broader reform trajectory. Sustainable currency stability requires deeper structural progress beyond individual exchange rate adjustments. Iraq continues facing challenges related to unemployment, infrastructure development, public sector reform, energy diversification, and private sector growth. Addressing these issues gradually strengthens the economic foundation, supporting the national currency. At the same time, Iraq possesses opportunities that many developing economies would consider significant advantages. The country's energy wealth, young population, geographic position, and reconstruction potential create long-term possibilities for growth if reforms continue successfully. Foreign partnerships in infrastructure, transportation, technology, and energy development could eventually contribute to stronger economic fundamentals. Another important point for viewers to understand is that governments often prioritize stability over rapid currency appreciation. A sudden sharp increase in a currency's value can create unintended consequences for exports, budgets, and economic competitiveness. Central banks usually prefer gradual, manageable adjustments that support broader economic goals rather than dramatic overnight shifts. This is why many analysts focus more on institutional reforms and financial modernization than on speculation about immediate currency jumps. The Iraqi dinar story remains closely connected to public trust. Confidence plays a major role in currency's stability. When citizens trust banking systems and economic policies, they are more likely to use domestic financial institutions rather than relying heavily on cash dollars or informal markets. Building this trust takes time, transparency, and consistent policy making. In recent years, Iraq has shown increasing interest in integrating more fully with regional and international economic systems. Cross-border trade agreements, energy partnerships, and financial cooperation efforts suggest that Iraq is attempting to position itself as a more stable and connected economy. Exchange rate management is a key part of that process because predictable currency systems encourage trade and investment activity. For global observers, the upcoming update may also provide clues about Iraq's economic priorities heading into the second half of the year. Governments often adjust policies in response to inflation trends, fiscal pressures, trade dynamics, or international financial developments. Analysts will likely examine whether this update reflects a temporary tactical adjustment or part of a broader strategic plan. Media coverage surrounding Iraqi currency developments can sometimes become highly emotional, particularly online. Some commentators present every exchange rate discussion as evidence of imminent extraordinary gains. However, balanced financial reporting requires acknowledging both opportunities and risks. Iraq's economy continues evolving, and reforms can create positive momentum over time, but sustainable progress usually happens gradually rather than instantly. For responsible Iraqi dinar followers, the most important approach is staying informed through credible economic developments rather than relying solely on rumors or exaggerated claims. Watching official announcements, monitoring central bank policies, following oil market trends, and understanding Iraq's broader economic reforms provide a more realistic perspective on the dinar's future direction. As we wait for more details regarding this reported exchange rate update, markets will likely continue analyzing every statement from Iraqi officials and financial institutions. Investors, traders, and citizens alike are looking for clarity regarding what exactly may change and how those changes could affect economic conditions moving forward. Until official information is confirmed, caution and balanced analysis remain essential. In the coming days, attention will probably focus on whether authorities provide additional explanations regarding dollar supply mechanisms, banking procedures, exchange market stabilization efforts, or broader monetary reforms. Any confirmed policy announcement could influence local market sentiment and potentially shape expectations for Iraq's economic outlook over the near term. For now, the key takeaway is that Iraq's exchange rate system remains an important part of the country's broader economic transformation. Even limited updates can have meaningful effects because of the central role the dollar plays in Iraq's financial structure. Whether this upcoming development turns out to be a technical adjustment, a stabilization effort, or part of a larger reform agenda. It clearly demonstrates how closely markets continue watching Iraq's monetary policies. Thank you for watching today's Iraqi Dinar news update. If you want responsible, factual, and balanced coverage of Iraqi Dinar developments, Iraq's economy, and financial policy updates, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. As always, this content is provided for informational and educational purposes only, and should not be considered financial, investment, or trading advice.